This is my clacker thing. Start every recording with a This weekend in the UFC, we saw Askar Askarov take on Garbrandt for the #1 contender spot in the flyweight division. Garbrandt was coming off a knockout win of former champ Cody Garbrandt, and Askar Askarov had never been defeated in his pro career, with his last showing being a super slick performance against benavidez. Despite what the bookies thought going into the fight, this was not one-sided at all. The story did look like it was going along the set narrative in round 1, with Askar getting a load of control time and multiple choke attempts, but Garbrandt came back big style in round 2, impressing everyone and living up to his word of saying that he wanted Askar to try to wrestle him, as he managed to get separation from more than one takedown attempt and landed a load of big shots as well. It was definitely 1-1 going into round 3, where we saw an almost immediate accidental groin strike from Askar, which really threw off Kai's momentum. Then it looked like Askar was going to get back in his stride, taking the back and securing another body triangle. But Kai got free again. Slippery little devil. It did seem like it was Askar setting the pace for a lot of round 3, and the round pretty much ended up against the fence again. However, it went to the judges' scorecard and Garbrandt took the win. I think most people just expected Askar to be the next contender for the title, maybe even the next champion. Garbrandt was, regardless of his previous performances, always going to be the underdog. Though Kai is arguably a more exciting fighter, putting people away, which isn't seen all that frequently in this division, his record is 23-9, and he suffered a previous loss to Brandon Moreno, who may well be the champ when Kai gets to that title contention. Askarov has also faced Moreno, but that was a really close fight which ended in a draw. But Askarov has wins on his record against Pantoja, who has a similar style to the current champ and potential champ when we get to that point, Figueiredo. The battle to the top is a game of inches, which is exactly what we saw illustrated in this fight. When skill sets even out, athletes that are serious about their futures need to be looking for that 1% where they can take the edge. Of course, we're talking about mindset. Askarov is Dagestani born. He spends quite a fair amount of time training out of the States, as well as Dubai, Bahrain, and still Dagestan. This variety will only help to widen his experience and his skills by testing them against varied high-level training partners.
Go hard, or go home. Go home. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home. Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home. Yeah, these championship rings on my hands now. In my head I'm top 10, yeah, that's hands down. You a squad, now you're looking man down. Funny how foes turn to friends now. Drive a race car like a Atari now. Call filling up, I need product again. Treat the business like a playground, might slide on you. Do me wrong, might slide on you. Do a backflip, cause I'm mad rich. I'm the definition of what that is. Go hard, or go home. 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 Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home. I'm a warrior, I go back to back, then go back to back. If I top the top, then I double back, and I'm topping that. Yeah, I beat my own records. Yeah, I gotta get money fetish. Same team, I don't set trip. Never dull, this electric. Went and put the Ricks on my toes. Me and bro, that's the give and go. Stay 100, end zone, end zone. Keep I know. I won't flood my wrist, no, I'm not dumb like that. I just wanna give my mama 100 racks. Go hard, or go home. 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 Touchdown like the end zone. When the circle turn to my home, can't get me out of my zone. Go hard, or go home. Go hard, or go home. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on bling and she icy. Freeze, photo, please, no photos. G's, no, please, no photos. Hit the door and the doorman just whole team here might need some. Still young, but I move like a new deal to my lawyer. If you're down in my management, I'm just warming up, wait till I old producers saw the numbers one. Different colors in my baggy light. Chalk it up, talk of the town where you're talking up. Wanna get you a ring and you tough enough. Wanna get you new things with your pockets dull. Run it up. I used to be quiet and out of luck. Now I move up and move humble cause the hate and the jealousy. My mama telling me count up your blessings and run it up. Nowadays nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on bling and she freeze, photo, please, no photos. G's, no, please, no photos. I keep giving game away. I put game on layaway. I got paid to play today. I get paid to stay away. I get paid on rainy days. I might make it rain today. I got paid off pain today. Thought it'd take the pain away. In my own lane, finger roll. I would never sell my only soul. Heard your whole team was for sale. Heard it's on the market for the low. Who the realest, we might never know. All this acting, you gon' play a role. Give you the world when they sign you up. Try you out and then they line you up. Ooh, now you're looking hungry, ribs are touching, need some food. Now you're all on live acting surprised, but you was fooled. Boy, get out the way, it's been a day, now you're old news. Now you got the pen and pad, you're trying to take my moves. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on bling and she freeze, photo, please, no photos. G's, no, please, no photos. Nowadays, nothing really excites me. Only one of me and nobody's like me. Phone ringing and I tell him it's ice. I got wifey on bling and she freeze, photo, please, no photos. G's, no, please, no photos.
Following that initial draw with Moreno, Askarov has totted up 3 decision wins in the UFC, but before fighting for this organisation, he was knocking people out and submitting people left, right and centre. He's incredibly talented and well-rounded. The Deaflympics gold medalist is a skilled, versatile wrestler. He'll shoot behind punches, catch kicks for takedowns, transition to the rear waist lock to drag people down, or any number of other entries you gotta be on the lookout for. While we've not seen great top control from him, he does his best work in transition, threatening with both back takes and his dangerous front chokes. And defensively, he's shown really good balance. On the feet, he moves only as much as he needs to, rather than this constant, bouncy movement we see from a lot of people in the division. Jabs and straights are on point from either stance, and we've seen a decent use of leg kicks as well. He stands really flat-footed, but he still seems to easily move out of range. Before the Benavidez fight, Askarov was only known as a wrestler, but in this matchup we saw tremendous improvement in his striking. Took Joe apart in every round, and then when he got bored with that, he took him to the ground for some nice little fun ground and pound. I could go on and on and on about adversity shaping us, and of course Askarov has many of the benefits that we talked about in the Dagestani Warrior video. He comes from a country torn apart by war that banded together to create a better future for its young people through sports programs and primarily wrestling. He has faith, belief, and a culture that inspires hard work, resilience, and relentlessness. But Askar also has his own battles to deal with. Born deaf, Askar must have had to face and overcome challenges in social and educational settings his entire life. Imagine trying to learn a new skill without being able to communicate clearly with the person that holds that knowledge. It's fucking impossible to find information specifically about Askarov's journey, but he's not the first fighter with no or partial hearing. So here's what I know about some other people's journeys that may cross over with his own. There is a constant trade-off that you have to make between being able to hear your coaches during training by wearing hearing aids or cochlear implants and your longer term health. Hearing aids can be damaged by sweat, and cochlear implants really shouldn't be punched. It could lead to loss of the hearing that they do have. During sparring, deaf fighters are unable to hear any of the bells, so they don't know when a round is finished or when it's coming to an end. Usually the sparring partner will step back or make it physically known that the round is over, wave them off. But sometimes a coach needs to step in and break it up physically. And if the sparring partner tries to communicate something else with them, it is close to impossible to lip read with a mouth guard in. The most famous example of a deaf MMA fighter is Mark Hamill. And Hamill's entire life was a struggle, but his grandfather taught him to adapt to the world around him just like anybody else would. Hamill did speak about what it's like during a fight for him, perhaps giving us some insight into Askarov's world as well. Whereas some fighters get weighed down by the advice of their cornerman during a fight, I'm in a position where I can receive information between rounds and then relax and just calmly carry it out for 5 minutes. I don't panic or worry if things are going wrong, and I don't hear the shouts and screams of my cornerman. It's all on me, and I like it that way. But it's not just the coaching and training and sparring that's different. Many fighters, like we saw very recently at UFC London, feed off of the atmosphere. The fans, the walkout music, the buzz. And then of course there's the other side of the same argument, and the one that I think Hamill was kind of leaning towards. Perhaps all that is simply a distraction. Perhaps being only able to really hear your own thoughts makes you 100% focused on the task at hand and the opponent in front of you. Askar was born deaf but has since recovered about 20% of his hearing. He can't really hear his coaches during a fight, but it has to make the training and learning aspects easier for him. For anyone who thinks that there is any weight to what Tito Ortiz said about deaf fighters being easier to knock out because of their soft heads, take yourself back to fucking school. Not only is that statement obviously not true, but there's also no weight to the idea that being deaf affects your balance or your equilibrium. Yes, they are both controlled by the inner ear, but it's two separate functions. She's a multitasker. And concussions have nothing to do with the ear anyway, you dumb fucks. So, if Askar's potential 1% advantage came from adversity, what does someone who, was bullied in school but generally hasn't had to face quite the same level of challenges in their life do to edge forward and get that competitive advantage? They work with Israel Adesanya's secret weapon, sports psychologist David Neath. David was the specialist that worked with Izzy to create Stylebender, the alter ego that Izzy taps into to fight. Izzy approached David after 2 consecutive losses, and together they developed Stylebender, giving Izzy access to another level of self-belief, energy, psychology, confidence. This work essentially transformed Izzy into the martial artist we know today. As Stylebender, the negative self-talk disappears and Izzy's able to manipulate time. Stick with me. Meaning that he has such an intense calm and focus that he's always a beat ahead of his opponent, seeing what they're throwing and countering beautifully. In this altered state, there is no fear or doubt, just absolute clarity. I don't know for sure whether David and Cara France, during their work together, did any alter ego work, but anyone can do this. We all face adversity in our lives. Maybe no one believes in your dream. Maybe you've been told you can't do something. Maybe you've hit a roadblock, failed at something. If you can control your mental, tap into this alter ego, you can increase confidence, remove fear, and accelerate performance. Remember when we were kids and we would pretend for entire afternoons that we were knights or race car drivers? There was no fear there. We were fully submerged in the fantasy. We were those characters. We just need to unlearn all the self-conscious nonsense that we learn as teenagers and get back to using our minds as weapons. And I have a whole video on alter egos and Conor McGregor that I will link for you. David's whole approach is to look at the little habits that set successful people apart. It could be your morning routine, the books you're reading, how you talk to yourself, or the people that you are sharing your energy with. In fact, how you talk to yourself is really key to David's work. He gets his athletes to regularly ask themselves, is this self-talk assisting you in achieving your goals? How you speak to yourself really matters, and if you can take learnings from failures but at the same time disconnect from the negative emotions, you're onto a winner, baby. And self-talk impacts self-image. Many fighters have big egos but low self-esteem. David teaches them to build humble confidence. Get in, get the job done. Alter ego can play a part in this, but there's more to it. David teaches his athletes to protect their self-image, their pride, how they represent themselves, and how they support themselves with tenacious resolve, whether other people choose to or not. Once you are truly proud of who you are without ego, other people's feedback will only fuel you, not drag you down. And that includes relentless trash talk from opponents like Conor, or in this case, Askar's hilarious social media game. Alongside self-talk and self-image, David focuses his approach, like many mental coaches, around the athlete's purpose. He works with them to create a clear vision of their goals, to continuously remember why they're doing this, and to stay accountable to this purpose. One small trick you can use to stay accountable to your purpose is to not immediately walk into the gym, the venue, your place of work, wherever it is that your purpose takes place. When you arrive there, just take a beat to sit in your car or stand outside, whatever works for the situation, and reflect on why you're there. Remember your vision, the bigger picture, and then try to connect that purpose to everything you do when you walk inside. Why are you throwing that jab? Why are you writing that email? Why are you talking to this camera? And give yourself permission to succeed. David said this simple idea alone has transformed many of his athletes. It reinforces the clarity of your vision, removes the muddy waters that doubt and negative self-talk bring, and acts as a protective shield from the opinions of others. You don't need anyone else's permission. You can give it to yourself. Those are some general kind of life tips that David throws our way, and maybe Cara Francis as well. But what about the immediate run-up to an anxiety-riddled event, such as a fight? Don't worry, babes. He's got you, babes. First, we need to do some visualization. David talks about not only visualizing yourself in like an out-of-body type way, but also first person, what that situation is going to look like for you on the day. Imagine the crowd or the other people in that space with you. Imagine everything you'll see as you confidently carry out that task. Reprogram your confidence by convincing the subconscious mind that these visualizations are real, that you've been there before, you've done this before, so why can't you do it again? I mean, we rehearse physically, so why not mentally as well? Then, finally, the day of. David said he asks two things of his athletes on the day. One, be calm. You make better decisions when you're calm. Now, I know I said we've moved on to the day of, but humans love groups, and I'm only human, so bear with me. David does say that you should start to work to control your physiology in the weeks running up to the event. So you've got to grips with it ahead of time and can use it on the day. He says simply breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 5, and then completely Empty your lungs as slowly as possible. The second emotional state he requests from his athletes is happiness. Now, I have no idea how he influences this, but he says, quite rightly, if you're enjoying the experiences, you're less likely to make mistakes due to pressure. And if you're looking for tips, I have a whole video on happiness coming out real soon. Now, of course, Kai's not only been doing mental workouts.
I press the button and the doors go up. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. I hit record a drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, vintage friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep. These no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peep, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, yo, no say. Okay, this the news, tell 'em read it. Been the one since a fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like.
Before the fight, he was working with some of New Zealand's most prolific wrestlers. He said before the fight that he planned to use these new skills to neutralize the threat before using his established striking to put Askarov away. Now that last bit didn't quite happen, but he certainly did neutralize that wrestling threat. Now Kai didn't really take a break between the Cody fight and starting training for this fight. Constant training like that can be so hard on the body and run the risk of aggravating or creating new injuries. But weight fluctuations and periods of being sedentary are also really hard on the body. And it seems keeping it consistent worked for Kai this time. Everyone, including you, has the tools to make success of whatever it is you put your mind to. Most of the time it just comes down to how bad you want it and how much extra you're willing to do, not just on the physical side of things. Whatever goals you're setting, don't just think about practicing that skill. Think about how much further you can take it. Are you working on mental performance? Are you blocking out the hate? Are you connecting everything to purpose? Are you talking to yourself like a friend? Do you know why you're doing it? Are you chasing down adversity to strengthen your resolve? My battery ran out. Let me know if you think Garbrandt has what it takes to beat the winner of Figueiredo and Moreno. I have loads more videos on MMA and MMA mindset that I'm going to link for you on the end screen. You're damn lucky.